No, I don't need that. Is it live? Hey everyone, Ryan here with American Mobile Training Solutions, and I appreciate you guys joining us today. Topic that we're going to cover is the fundamentals of marksmanship, and it's just going to be an overview today, but I wanted to let you know that we're going to be rolling out some free content that I think is of value, and whether or not you're a 20-year veteran of the firearms shooting sports or you're new to it, consider yourself an amateur or professional, the fundamentals are there to ensure that we have a solid foundation. And like any other sport, you can take basketball, baseball, golf, tennis, badminton, whatever. They all have a foundation for what we call motor skill development, also commonly called muscle memory. And so I'm going to be touching on that today, and then also going over an overview of the fundamentals of marksmanship. We're going to be rolling this out over the next anywhere between 6 to 8 days, and then we're going to follow it up with content for drills that you can work on in your home. And I'm not specifically going to be going into like a 50-minute class per se. That's going to be for customers that want to come to us and want to take the time to be able to do that. But what we're going to create or attempt to create is a snapshot of certain skill sets that you can develop while in the safety of your home and in the security of your home. So again, fundamentals of marksmanship, an overview. Ashton's my assistant today. Go ahead and click the next slide, please.
I'm going.
All right, so just a quick overview, and hopefully let me know if you guys can't read this text or anything like that, but hope everything is good to go on that. Again, we're in our media room, so everything's still kind of new and fresh. But American Mobile Training Solutions, we're a veteran-owned small business. We've been at the forefront of emergency response training, use of force training, professional firearms development since 2013 when we got back from Iraq and Afghanistan. We're all law enforcement instructors, military instructors, and that's kind of where our background started. And we have a single mission for you guys. We want to make sure that you have the best training that you can receive, that you have the most up-to-date information, and that you have the capability to place the best policies for those who are in our care, and you as our students would be in our care. And to be very, very honest, on the best training, everybody learns at a different pace. Everybody learns under different instructors. The only thing that we've ever asked is that, regardless of whether or not you go with us or not, is that you at least get a reputable trainer, a reputable company. Make sure it's reputable, okay? Just like whenever you select your firearms. Those are things we'll go into as well. But today we're just going to cover the fundamentals. Next slide, please. All right, here's a disclaimer, and I wasn't going to put this, but I was like, okay, well, this will be out here. And once it's out there, it's out there. So the disclaimer is that we provide recommendations for procedures and guidelines for individuals who view our content. We recommend that you follow all applicable state, local, federal, city ordinances, all of those laws as they relate to firearms and firearm regulations. Also, we take no responsibility for you, the individual who view our content and performs any task, function, or procedure without the direct supervision of an American Mobile Training Solutions instructor. And I know that sounds silly, but you guys that know us, we're not lawyers, we're not the legal people, but the disclaimer, I just want you guys to know, when you're practicing these things, always practice safe. Empty, no rounds in the magazine, no rounds in the chamber type of deal. Center fire only for dry drills. All right, next slide. All right, so what are the fundamentals of marksmanship? There's as few as 4. There's as many as 12. We try to stick in the middle, anywhere between 5 and 6. Now I've added a couple on here that I wanted to touch base on because I felt like it was important for you guys to have that information. But realistically, you've got anywhere between 5 and 6 fundamentals of marksmanship. You have and they're not in any particular order. I'm going to cover them in a particular order, and it's in the order that I put them in here, but any of them you can practice at any time. So your stance, talking about your physical stance, your grip on your firearm, and it doesn't always relate to the pistol either. It can be your shotgun, or it can be your rifle, it can be your pistol. Trigger control, same as with all forms of firearms, rifle, pistol, shotgun. Your trigger control, trigger discipline. Now your draw is one that I included in here because we do cover it in our training, and it is specific to the individual. Everybody has different body types, and there's no one way to draw, and specifically it's talking about, it doesn't matter if it's concealed carry or open carry, just if you're carrying it somewhere, anywhere, how to draw that out safely and effectively. We'll cover that on this week. I believe it'll be on Friday, potentially Friday or Saturday. But we'll cover some of the things on the draw. Aim, so you have two you have two things on your aim. You have your sight alignment and your sight picture. Really easy ways to work on that and practice on that. Breath control, everybody has their own cadence, and everybody again has different body types, body mass, different forms of fitness and things like that, and so it's never one thing, but there are consistencies in your breath for whenever you're firing. And then follow through, just like I said, in all sports you have follow through in your baseball, follow through on your basketball shot, your golf shot, your tennis swing. Shooting sports has follow through as well, and it can affect the trajectory of the projectile just as much as any of the other things. Finally, your recovery. We'll talk on that. I relate recovery a lot to follow through as well, but the recovery is the after action between the firing sequences, and again, we'll touch base on that too. So one thing that I'm going to talk about today, go ahead and next slide, is developing motor skill development. So you've heard us talk about it. It's also commonly referred to as muscle memory. It has any number of things. Obviously, the muscle does not have memory, but what you're doing is you're developing the fundamentals of marksmanship, that you're building the connection between your brain and the utilization of the muscles for that firing sequence, or whenever you're drawing, or whatever it is that you're practicing. The actual number of repetitions is generally, some instructors will say, yeah, 300, some say 10,000. I know I used to say 6,000, but really it's an individual type thing. You could do it in as few as 300, that's the lowest acceptable, or it may take you up to 10,000. It just depends. Typically, to become a master at something, people talk about 10,000 hours or 10,000 times and things like that. But if you have 2,000 quality rounds, it's maybe the equivalent of what someone else would take for 10,000. It takes less time if the skill has been developed correctly. And so on the next slide here, if you go to the next slide, please. On the next slide, I talk about incorrect skill development requires nearly 4 to 10 times the amount of time and amount of repetitions to correct. So it'll take you 4 times longer to correct a bad habit that you learned or practiced than to have done it correctly in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that we're the only ones that are correct. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you saw our Facebook picture with the guy that had the semi-automatic and he had a revolver grip type of deal, but he had his thumb over the back of the slide, we call that a self-correcting problem, because in the firing sequence, whenever that slide racks, ejects the casing, loads the next projectile, you'll find that a lot of people will have a scar right there because of that. So we call that a self-correcting problem, but if someone learns it that way, it's very difficult to correct. I've always said this, anybody that's taken our class, we love to have a blank canvas, and better to be a blank canvas than one marred with random strokes. Kind of came up with that. Practice for a short period of time. This is a big one for me. Have 5 to 10 minutes of isolated, focused time to be able to develop your skills. Maybe you only get 10 reps in. Maybe you can get 20 reps in, but it's a lot better than going for a period of like 50 plus minutes. And then, let's say you're working on your trigger control and you're firing. Let's say your finger wears out after 5 minutes and you're telling yourself you still got 45 minutes to practice the skill. Well, guess what? The 45 minutes left is going to happen. You're going to develop incorrect trigger control because your muscles are going to compensate for fatigue. So short bursts, concentrated bursts, isolated bursts are going to be better for you over an extended period of time than trying to do 2 or 3 hours worth of something. All right, next slide, please. Okay, after a few hundred repetitions on the skill you are developing, change it up. And so just like if you were to practice on your golf swing with your driver, and let's say you're practicing your swing, but it's 50 reps on your driver, switch it up to your 9-iron because you're practicing the same swing. Switch it up to a timer. So if I'm working on a dot drill or something like that, or I'm just working on a dime drill, after a few hundred reps of that, why don't I just time myself now? So if I think that it's going to take me 35 seconds to complete this drill, now I'm going to set my timer to 35 seconds. And then I'm going to add a little bit of stress to it, and I'm going to say, okay, 30 seconds this time. But what I'm doing is I'm just working on changing it up because you can actually learn quicker that way because it forces your brain to get it correct. Not to go for speed, but to go for correctness. Finally, practice. I've always said this, you always hear it, practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. Practice makes consistent. And if you're learning incorrectly, you're going to consistently be incorrect in whatever skill that you're using. I don't like the term practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. Practice makes consistent. Take the time to learn the sequence correctly. Take the time to learn the drills correctly. Everybody has this opinion in the firearm industry. It seems like you got to be the best at something. You got to be the fastest at something. How about making it out? How about being the victor, not the victim? How about being able to utilize your skill when you need it, not on a range but in real life? Okay. So, anyways, next slide, please. That's about it on the motor skill development. So, what is next? If you have any questions on the fundamentals of marksmanship, again, I'm going to be covering it over the next about 8 days on each fundamental, but please feel free to reach out to us, schedule a one-on-one consultation with us. I love to develop relationships. For those of you that have taken the training with us, you know how specific we are about it. So please see us, what it takes to get to the next level. I want you to have confidence. I want you to be the victor and not the victim, and I want you to be able to carry confidently if that's what you choose to do, or just have the capability and confidence that in the event of an emergency, you're going to emerge the victor, not the victim. So again, I'm Ryan Shields with American Mobile Training Solutions. I appreciate your guys' time. Like us on Facebook, share the video, do everything that you can to help us because we would love to be able to help you guys. That's our mission. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Stay safe.